is the Maggie McGuy Show.
Hey everybody, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good whatever time of the day this show meets you. Okay, this, as you can already tell, it's the Maggie McGuy Show. The Joys and the Woes of Singlehood series is continuing, although we're getting ready to bring it to a close very soon. But we cannot bring this show to this series to an end without addressing this awesome topic that most of y'all have been like, oh yeah, but you know, God told me so-and-so is my wife. God told me so-and-so is my husband. And matter of fact, the prophet should see a vision, that kind of show. That's what we're about. Now, without further ado, people of God, let's give a warm welcome to my guest, Prophets Mo and Kavane Rankin. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. Got it.
The Rankins are here, people of God. Let's give them a warm welcome, people of God. Let's just say hello to them. We want you guys to just introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about who you are for the benefit of those who do not know you guys. Because obviously, you know, many different people tuning in this afternoon, this morning, whatever time of day it is for you guys. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, ma'am. Introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're tuning in from, your ministry, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, we are here live and direct from London, England, and yes, London in the house. And we have a prophetic ministry called Sword of the Spirit Ministries in London, and we have another branch up in Dudley. And we've been running our ministry for 12 years. I've been in ministry for 20 years. My wife has been in ministry for
all my life, but professionally, I would say like about 15. Yeah,
so we've been, you know, doing the Lord's work for a long time. We're full-time ministers of the gospel, and we've been married for what is it, 10 years now?
10 years.
Wow, 10 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations, guys. Oh, that's so good to hear. Well, guys, we're jumping straight into it. So, prophets, here you are. We are throwing it straight out to you guys. How is it that some people want a prophet to just prophesy or see a vision and tell them who their spouse is? Is that even biblical?
You want to go first?
You go.
Okay, you jump in. Well, I think the concept of prophetically or getting a prophet to reveal the future or something that's going to happen to you is obviously a biblical concept, but the nature of relationships doesn't tend well to prophecy, you know. And a lot of the time people, they want to kind of like get a confirmation of something without understanding the foundations or the things that you have to know in order to pick a spouse or pick a husband. So they rather say, look, if I get this wrong, I want it to be God's fault, do you know? Or the prophet's fault, you know, or somebody's fault. They want to alleviate the responsibility of going through the natural processes in how you identify a spouse, you know. And so a lot of the times when you ask a prophet, okay, is this my husband or is this my wife? You're asking them to begin to elaborate on something which is changing all the time, because people change, you know. So if you say that somebody, it's almost like prophecy. It's almost like prophecy. There was a story in Isaiah 38, where King Hezekiah was going to die, and then the prophet comes over and says, you know, guess what? You know, God says you're going to die. Set your house in order. You're finished. He turns his face to the wall. He repents, and now the same prophet has to come back and say, heaven has updated itself. Now you're not going to die. you're going to live now, and even going to live 15 more years. You're going to get the kingdom restored, and a lot of things are going to happen to you. So the human nature, you know, changes, you know. So where somebody could be the right spouse for you, if they rob a bank and go and kill somebody, then obviously it's going to change the will of God, isn't it? And so we have, this realm where we have to kind of understand that it's not, you shouldn't really rely on a prophet to identify your wife or husband.
Yeah, and just to add on to the back of what Hubby's saying, is that what we tend to do in Christendom is over spiritualize everything. So you're called to business, but you're like, Lord, and yes, pray, but there's a practicality like every other human being that you have to walk out. So you, Atom, you're in medical school. You can't just pray for good results. You just can't pray to be at the top of your class. You need to put the work in. You obviously have to put the time in. You have to learn to balance your time with God, how to put your time into the assignment. Assignment. And then, we have to understand how to marry the two, marry the spirit with the natural. We have to understand that faith without works is dead. We have to, be practical about what we're looking for. Well, how sometimes it depends on where you are in your life. Some people are getting married now later in life, and depending on where you are, you might have different requirements. And so there was a point in my life where I had to say to God, well, I'm in a point where I desire marriage now. There was a point where I was too mature, and I didn't understand. But after, and I really believe that most people go to a prophet or don't want to lean on themselves because they're not learning, they don't have a relationship with God first and foremost. They don't know how to trust the Lord. They haven't how to first hear from the Lord. And if you hear from the Lord, then of course you're going to be afraid about choosing someone to be a spouse to for the rest of your life. But the important thing with any relationship, especially as a Christian, is to first be married to Christ. Is to first him. And as you know him, he's not going to cause you to be aligned with somebody who is not right for you, who is going to take you down a path that God has not ordained for you. I had to for myself, and I'm telling you, when you have a relationship with the Lord, he will speak to you and tell you you're going in the wrong direction. And oftentimes we hear God as well, but then we don't like what he's telling us, and so we want to get confirmation to our wrong desires from the please tell me that, you know what I mean? We try to almost like use witchcraft to bend God's will to our will. And so it really is just about humbling ourselves and saying, God, you know better than me. And I had to get to that point. I had to say, God, you know what? I really am rubbish at this. I'm terrible at choosing for myself. So God, you know who's best for me. I don't have no clue. And then as you do that, the Lord will, and you continue. And I think after that, just walk out your life with Christ. Just be excited. The Bible says that when you're single, you can dedicate your life to Christ, that you can focus on the Lord. But when you're married, your focus is on your spouse. And so you are, as you're single, I urge you just to focus on the Lord and do the will of God and live that life is that maximum capacity to God, and God will bring that person, or you will meet that person on your journey.
Well, you see, just to add a little bit to what you said.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
You said something about literally about God leading and identifying, and that's I think that's where it kind of a woman of God. That's where it kind of comes from when people ask the prophet, "This is my wife," because there are certain signs and spiritual signs which we'll get more into. When you can identify a spouse or a partner, and but it's not going to be a direct confirmation that this is the one. But there are going to be signs. I say signs and symptoms. Signs and symptoms. You can say, okay, these are the flags that someone is potentially someone for me, because marriage ministry, that's right. You're having two, when the Bible says that the wife is the helper, or that he that finds a wife finds a good thing, and it finds something. It tells you the roles of the relationship. It's telling you that there's a destiny for two people that is intertwined, that they must go on together. So if I don't know my destiny, then I, as a man, I can't lead no one there.
Come on.
But if a wife doesn't know her destiny as well, then she doesn't know who to be led by. So sometimes you have to be able to know certain things, prerequisites that say to yourself, wow, okay, that's actually the direction that I need to be going on to, and like for me, I was an ordained prophet, and I knew that I had to have somebody who was in the prophetic ministry, who had an understanding of spirituality to walk with me, because the Bible says two can't walk together unless they agree.
They agree,
And so I think as we're going to go more into discussion, there is like there is spiritual identifiers that we can talk about, you know, but that makes it that allows people to see where God fits into the whole decision-making process.
Absolutely. You know, I love what you said, sir, when, indeed, it is biblical to desire for a prophet to reveal. We see that right throughout, you know, the Old Testament. We see that they I think they say with the fivefold, when we say there's the apostolic and that's the prophetic. And I remember my spiritual father would say, why is the prophetic on this finger? Because they tend to give that direction, you know, and bring the correction and you know, that guidance. We thank God for that. But I love what you said earlier, sir, that sometimes people want a get out of jail card, and so that it's a blaming God if it fails, as if even if God had said it, you just come in and do absolutely nothing in the relationship. You do absolutely zero in the marriage, and it's still gonna work. No, it's not. It's gonna fall flat on your face.
Yes.
And that's what the woman of God was saying, that look, you got to put in, you know, the work. There is that aspect. But then you also said something that our first guest on this series, Pastor Mimi Lazarus, she said it's when people really lack a relationship with God. That's when, and they lack a relationship with God, and then suddenly they want to get married, right? And so now they're like, I know what to do. I'll go see the prophet.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But it stems from that place of lack of relationship, because if really you're in relationship with God, there will be pointers, there will be leadings of God, there will be promptings.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. And we're, you know, and because, you know, just to identify the prophet, the New Testament prophet comes to give confirmation, you know? If he gives you revelation, that means there's an absence of relationship, you know, that you have from God. If he's telling you something you don't know, that means that, you know, that there's some sort of breach in your relationship, you know? And I want to share that, you know, something that a man of God told me, you know, in fact, even when we were having our marital counseling, and it was the best advice we had, and it was by a prophet I think we both know, I think it's the Prophet Komi, you know?
Yes. God bless him,
God bless that man of God. And he said that, you know, rather than asking a prophet, is this my spouse or is this my husband? You know, what you should do is ask God for these 3 revelations. And he said, an internal witness, an external witness, and a circumstantial witness. Okay, and so the 3 witnesses are this. The internal witness is that God has to speak to you first. You need to get a confirmation. You need to fast. You need to pray. You need to sit down with the Lord and really ask God, you know, and see what you feel the Lord is saying to you. That is this person your wife or this person your husband. That's the spiritual internal witness. The external witness is where someone you don't know has come and confirm that you know that someone is your wife, you know. So you can pray for that. And that was a big challenging one when we were getting married. We were praying for the external witness. And the other one is the circumstantial witness, where you can see that you're aligned in the same path. You have the same goals, you have the same agreement, you have the same mind towards ministry and life. And that's very important, because a lot of the time that we don't do the, you know, dating is supposed to be data, isn't it? You know, you get data to make sure that you are have the same direction, have the same philosophies of life. Because a lot of people, you know, they break up, or marriages break up because the philosophies towards life and growth are different. You know, they don't match. And so when he told us that, it was very powerful. And so we already had the internal witness, you know, we already had a circumstantial witness. It was, I was desiring a wife, and she was desiring to get married, and we were both aligning towards a prophetic ministry. But the one we didn't have was the external witness. And I remember praying for that. You know, I said, Lord, send me an external witness. And at the time, I had my church I was pastoring, and my wife was serving at her church, and I went to go visit her. And then I was sitting alone in the church at the end of the service, and she was doing some stuff with in the front of the church, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder I didn't know and said to me, "Man of God, I don't know you from anywhere, but the Lord is saying your wife is in this church." you know?
And
so
it was only us three.
It was only us three in the room, literally in the room, you know? And, you know, and I got my external, and that's where the prophetic can come in to the equation.
The equation, right.
You know, that's where it can come into the equation. And it was the confirmation. It was confirmation of that. But we already had the other two witnesses as well. So we already knew, you know? And I think that's such an important, that was an important time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was really helpful for me, because I remember when, especially I think nowadays, but it's not like before where you're meeting somebody who's never had a partner before, or you know, a different time. And a lot of people are coming together now who have already have children. Like I already had a daughter, and so that was even more important for me, because I was like, God, not only do I need a good husband for me, I need who I can trust, especially when you have a little girl as well. Like, you know, that was really terrifying for me, because I was like, God, I need a man in our lives who I can entrust with my daughter, and you know, and I can't choose that. Like that's too much. Like God only somebody could be good enough for you, but not necessarily your child. And what I mean by that is that, you know, children are so innocent and pure, and there's things you can handle as an adult, but your child cannot handle. So I really had to give it into God's hands. And when I did that, and I remember when we had already said we had our confirmation, and I remember what we said. We said, right, we're going to go away, remember, for 3 days, and we're going to fast, and we're not going to have any communication, but we're going to fast and pray. And I'm telling you, in that 3 days, because I was saying, God, I cannot go into this situation, you know, and it's wrong. I can't. It was too much depending on it, because it wasn't just me and my daughter. And then on Saturday was the last day of the fast. And I woke up in the morning and I said, God, please let it be known to me. And I was still in my bed, and in the spirit, I saw a scroll drop from heaven, and it was a red seal. No, it was a scroll, and it turned in, and then there was like a red ribbon, and God said, it's sealed. Like, this is it. It's written. Like this is the one, you know. And that's what gave me the confirmation, is that God gave me that spiritual confirmation. Like, this is okay. Like, I approve this. There's a seal of this marriage. Yes. And I want to encourage other people as well, because I believe that there's more than one way. I don't believe that, you know, people kind of say, like, this is how God worked it for us. And I really believe, because God knew this was like a real ministry marriage. You know, so people are married and they're in Christendom, but they may have like regular jobs, but they're still in Christ and doing the ministry. But God knew that we were called for the front line. And so he had to really, give us intense confirmation. And he gave me so many visions and whatnot. But for other people, I know they have just met somebody who they are attracted to. And they're in Christendom, and then they just pray that, God, this is who they desire. And even when we read in the Bible, and you know, when Abraham said, look, Isaac, it's time for you to marry, you know, he sent the servant over, and he said, okay. And the servant said, okay, it will be the one who, you know, draws the water and not just gives me water, but waters my camels. And you know, so sometimes you have to understand is that we that's what I said, we limit God. And I think sometimes we cut ourselves out of opportunities because we make things so spiritual. For us, that was our story, and God said that's the one. For somebody else, it might be that you're in alignment, as Apostle said, circumstantially. So I remember somebody I know said, no, this man, he is about, you know, he wants to, you know, he's diplomatic, he's diligent, he's forward thinking. We're in alignment in that way. And then that's how they built up their marriage, and almost like an empire, you know. So I really believe that you have to, that's why I said you have to know God, because it's going to be different for everyone. Some men attracted to say, oh, that girl's pretty, Lord, that's my wife, I want that to be my wife. And sometimes as well, people change along the way. So we evolve. So who I was in the beginning, he had to take me warts and all. I had to take him warts and all. And we had to kind of, it was uncomfortable, like a baby being born, you know, and it's like you're squeezing and you have to learn how to work together. I was very one-way minded. He was one-way minded. We had to learn how to really come together. But we knew that our common denominator was Christ, and that we're laying down our lives for Christ. And everything comes from that. So it's different for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so beautiful. Let me get my contributors to jump in. Any one of y'all, Minister Israel, go for it, sir. Go for it.
Oh, wow. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Prophet. I've learned so much, really. Like, just these few minutes, I've documented a lot. And I think one of the questions in my mind, when our Prophet Mrs. was speaking, I think I got the insight, right? I got the knowledge to answer that question. So I'm just going to expatiate, just throw more light on that. We talked about there is a process to things.
Yes.
And like that just stood out for me because I believe when it comes to the prophecy marriage that people talk about, they're just seeing the spiritual aspect of it, neglecting processes, right? For me, I believe that even when we go to church, this happens in church all of the time. So you see a lady or you see a guy that is serving diligently in church.
Yes.
So just assume that church is what made them up. Church is just one aspect of their life.
That's right.
Outside church, they have other lives.
Yes.
Right? So I think people need to know that spirituality is just one aspect of our life. By the way, relationship, marriage, we are not marrying spirits. We are marrying individual. So you marry someone that is speaking in tongues, that is seeing vision. This person can use the toilet and will not flush it. The problem.
My God.
Yeah.
The problem, because for you to relate, for you to dress together in unity, there must be understanding. And so when the understanding is coming in, that's the work that is required for relationship and marriage. So the prophecy, we appreciate that, but we should not just put all our eggs that, once the prophet confronts that this is my person, there is a process to things. Like there is a natural aspect that I think people need to balance. It's when we evaluate this thing and we work together, we'll have it.
I think even divine relationships need work.
Absolutely.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand, because you need, even if there is like you're meant to be all this kind of things, like you said, the process means learning each other. It means learning what each other likes, dislikes. It means also learning how to be sensitive to each other. Now, for us, prophets, especially the prophetic character, because I even run a school of the prophets. I work with a lot of prophets, and the prophetic nature, prophets by nature are very introverted extroverts. So they like privacy, they like time, they can be very aggressive when it comes to maintaining their space, because there's a format God has with prophets that can even make them moody at times. And so you're marrying a personality that is tuned in and has been tuned in to hear from God and to receive from God, and it's always been a very kind of like a private experience, and now you're marrying somebody that you have to now you have to learn how to understand the times where they have to receive from God, when it's not them, when it's them receiving from God, not ignoring you. Which is big, and so that personality or that spirituality we see at church has as a product, a process, like you say, of how it's made, and sometimes it's like you have to be aware of these kind of nuances that people have in their private life that allows them to minister in a certain way.
Totally.
And so these are the things that a lot of people don't understand, because it's sometimes like you could be thinking that, and you can have expectations of your spouse. You can think to yourself, now I'm married, I want somebody that's going to like do this, that, and this, but they're not made that way yet. They have to develop into that way. They have to develop into that person. So the prophetic revelation you get of them is not who they are right now.
Because God has this habit. Because he's not in time, right? God has this habit where he will speak about whoever or whatever from the end point.
That's right. Come on now. Yes.
And oh my, don't get me started.
Get started.
This is it.
Yeah.
Joseph, she's gonna bow before you. This is greatness. They're bowing before you. But isn't that amazing that there is nothing from God about the process?
Come on.
To that. So here is this kid going through these things that seem like God has forsaken him, but really it's not. It's just process. Because our God is like that. You can say, oh, so sometimes, in as much, because I appreciate the prophetic, and by the grace of God, whenever the Holy Spirit leads, we speak that word prophetically, glory, and I receive it too. But you see, this is the thing I've had to learn when God is speaking, is come back to now where I am and what I've heard, and start to walk to it now by faith, and knowing, like what you were saying, ma'am, the place of process or working it out. After all, it does say work out your salvation, with fear and trembling. So I believe that is applicable even with the prophetic. You work it out.
Yes. And that's why the prophet can't tell you your spouse. Yeah. Because even if it was God's will, it needs a participation from the person.
That's right.
To be able to make it happen. Yeah. Because somebody could say, look to you, this person A is your wife, whatever. Yeah. But person A might not want to change. Yeah. Person A might be comfortable who they are. Right. Person might have anger issues or this issues that they're going through, that they're working through. And so when you now hear, this is my wife, and you're getting married from the prophet, and then you get somebody who's got anger issues, who's got low self-esteem, who's got all these kind of things that they're coming into with. You're like, what? This prophet told me I'll get a wife. I'll get a helper. This isn't a good thing. But
what you have now is a problem, and not a wife, and not a husband.
Exactly. Yes. That prophecy got you a problem, and you're like, what in the world? Yeah. But you see, that's the thing. There's a lot of ingredients behind that. The praying for your spouse, the encouraging each other, the Bible study, the working together, which allows a prophecy, even if it was correct, to be birthed and to be breathed and to manifest. And that's why we can't rely on prophets to pick. We have got to understand it's our responsibility to see, to identify, to discern. It's our responsibility to know who we are first, before we go into a relationship. And it's our responsibility to know and to come into agreement with somebody, and both parties take on responsibility to evolve. You have to evolve in a marriage. You've got to be really willing to change,
It's literally, you have to be willing to lay down your life, and that is the reality. And that's why
sorry, I have to interject here. It's funny you should say that. Minister Israel Adam, what does that remind you? Does that not take you back to the Okutepas? We had an amazing couple who are marriage counselors and coaches, and they said some amazing things to us when we unpacked expectations versus the reality. Because we can all be building up these castles in our heads. We can be like this, and it's like that. And I remember he said something phenomenal that I was just like, okay now. And he said this. He said, by the way, that show is over on YouTube. Feel free to go there and watch it. It would be under the last 3 shows that we uploaded, because we had to break it down as part 1, part 2, part 3. But hear this. He said this. He said, while you are dating, you sit on the judgment seat.
That's it. Wow. So true.
Come on.
So
right?
true.
So you're looking at this individual and you're saying, can I work with this? Is this what I'm believing God for? Is this what I want for my life? So on and so forth. So you're looking at their character. You're looking at how they do life. Yada, yada, yada. The works. But listen, as soon as you get married, just like what you were saying, Mama, that you now lay down your lives. You are now sitting on the mercy seat as soon as y'all are married. It's the mercy seat. because y'all have laid down your lives. There will be a whole lot of forgiving, whether you like it or not, if at all you want that marriage to stand.
Come on.
The only way for a marriage to live is for you to die. Like, that's literally it. And you know, one thing God told me early, there'll be things I'll be complaining about. Lord, why does he do this? Yeah, but God, he does this. You know, and God's like, that's your assignment. I've given you as his wife the key to unlock certain things inside of him. And I've given him the key to unlock certain things inside of you. And so we are each other's assignment. So when you have an assignment, you have to study for that assignment. So I have to study my husband. I have to say, God, what is this? God, why does he respond like this? I have to learn him. I have to research him. I have to, my assignment is called Moses Rankin. That's my assignment. Like, and his assignment is Kavane Rankin.
Yes.
You know? And we evolve and we're learning. And what happens is your love also evolves in a new way. It changes and moves as you grow. And sometimes when he's been weak or when he's had so much on his shoulders, I've had to step into a position I never thought I could step into. You get this supernatural strength to cover your spouse. When I've been weak, I was unwell, and I missed about 5 weeks of church. And so I had to cover everything. There's times when he was away or was busy. I had to make sure I'm covering everything. And the Lord will literally equip you to do things that you never thought you were graced to do. It's just like when you're running a ministry, God gives you a special grace to run a ministry. When you're a parent, there is a special grace that is required. And it's just like you said, when you're single, you sit on the judgment seat. And it's like before you have children, you're like, I'll never raise my child like that. Or you're like, my God, look how naughty the child is in public. If that was my child, and when you have your child, only then you realize it's not as easy as it appears. And the same way as raising your child, you need grace. You're learning on the job. You need understanding. You need, and I used to always ask God, help me in my motherhood. Help me in my motherhood. Help me. And I used to pray. And then the Lord would help me and show me. And even things that the enemy was trying to do against my daughter, I would learn how to undo it and how to break it. And the same thing with marriage. There are things that we carry into marriage. When I met my husband, from my lineage, there is a lot of things that affected him negatively, impacted him negatively and positively, and vice versa. And there was things obviously that I can see, because now we have each other's backs. I can see things that he can't see for him, and he can see things that I can't see for myself. So he might say, "Hun, I know that you're used to doing things that way, but you're gonna have to, it's not profitable for you. You reacting like that or responding like that or being reactive in nature to, that's not helping you. But I'm used to that because my family's full of sisters, and we're all like this, and we're all like, but that doesn't work in marriage. That doesn't work in life. And I've had to learn how to simmer. And same thing with him. He come from a real all male, strong male family, and it's very he was very yes, a woman does this and a man does,
Alpha male. I came from alpha male land.
He never ironed a shirt or never in his
What's his Facebook, by the way?
He ironed his shirt. But what I'm saying is that, I had to learn how to just God had to really shave me down. Yeah. Really smooth me out. I was not, and I came in thinking, he's a pastor, he's going to be like this, he's a prophet, I married a prophet, and God had to show me, hold on, he's a man, okay? He's your husband, he's your man, and and I had to learn how to take him as a man, you know what I mean? Because I only knew him in as a pastor, as a prophet, and him prophesying to me, and I thought, oh wow, look at this man of God I'm going to have, and he's going to be in the house all day just prophesying and preaching. Right. No, he's a man. He needs downtime. He likes to watch his sport. He's a real human male. You have to learn how to attend to that, how to pour into that. You know what I mean? And he's a brilliant man, but he also is a man that needs to just chill. He's a man that still has feelings. That can feel like, God, I need a break. Like he's carrying a huge mantle of weight on his shoulders, and I need to know how to relieve that from him, and him with me. Absolutely. And I'm a woman, and he needs to know how to kind of just give me that loving, that tenderness, the tenderness that I need. Because even though I can be, obviously when you're prophetic, you can be very, and I'm running ministry and I can be very intense, but really he's the only one that needs to deal with that kind of that feminine, that woman. and be like, it's okay. He's my safety. He's the one I can come under for safety. And so we have learned that along the way, because we came in with such construed thoughts of marriage because of where we came from. We didn't really know that marriage was for building. Marriage was for, And
I think as well that, going back to what we said about prophet, who's my wife, these are the kind of advice that you can't get in a prophecy. Do you know? When you're hearing a prophetic word that this is someone is for you and this is for you and that's for you, then you're not going to understand that this is the kind of things that you're going to have to go through. So I think going back, even when you think about what is the prophet's role in the process of you picking your spouse, I think it's more not to confirm, but not to pick, but also sometimes to warn as well, because some of the questions that we always get this question all the time, people come to us and say, what do you think of this one? What do you think
bring them?
They bring them to the church. And I'm talking to them, and the Lord is saying to me that, wait a minute, this is a candidate for somebody. I'm shaking their hand, and I know I'm shaking the hand of some sort of, and then they'll come to me and go, the person you're speaking to, I brought him here so you can tell me what the Lord says.
And God help you if it's one of those prophets that like to constantly say something to be a validator, right? Because we got some of those.
That's right.
And I'm telling you, it'll come back and bite you, because like I said, when it does not go as well as they thought it should go, they're coming back to blame the prophet and God.
If we're really real, we have a lot of these prophets sometimes that would look at the people you bring and think, wow, that person's got a good job. That person can add a big tithe to the church.
Yes.
They all have their own personal reasons for prophesying your spouse. And so this is why it's so important to hear and know God for yourself, because we do have leadership, that unfortunately, have different reasons for leading. It comes apparent in those moments. And and so some of the times that when a prophet can be, when it's a good prophet, I say, and if you're going to get married to a witch doctor and he sends in witchcraft over that person, then you've got to be. That's when I think it's a necessary interruption or a necessary input, because we've had a case where somebody's brought somebody in, and I was like, okay, and I had to carefully craft it to say to them, okay, what do you know about them and their personal life? What do you know about them in here? And so the Lord saying to me blatantly that no, this person is going to get married to to somebody that's not right for them, And I knew it was not because it wasn't, because that person itself wasn't even pretending to be a Christian. And so sometimes that's where it's coming in. And I said to them, well, look, you go to the Lord again, you hear and you pray and you fast and make sure you hear. And thank God in that situation, the person did hear from the Lord and did realize certain things did come out, that they realized, wow, I was going to marry somebody that was a worker of darkness. And it can happen, And so I think that's where I see the role of the prophet, in terms of if there's something that you need to revisit or re-understand before you go further.
Absolutely.
But the decision must always lie with the person.
The decision is with that individual. Adam, let me bring you in so that I can ask another question, because I kind of feel we missed the sound of your voice. Go for it, sis. Go, Adam.
Okay, thank you so much, prophets. Man, sir, you guys have said a lot of things. Like, even to just get my question, I'm like, please don't answer my question. Please don't answer my question. And so my question is this. So imagine there's this person who has all these confirmations. You understand? They have all these confirmations of this great person, but then they can see that this person has anger issues. They can see that this person has, everything they don't just want to entangle their life with. What will you say to them as, the covering over them as their prophets? Yeah.
Okay. The one thing I would say, the Bible says, how can two walk together lest they agree? And I think that, to me, what we tend to look at, obviously, a gift can make anybody look great. Achievements, in business or, degrees, whatever, it can make anybody look great. But the Bible says you shall know them by their fruit. So what were the confirmations? Like, if you're talking about confirmations, what do you mean by confirmations? But then you're seeing anger issues, but then you're seeing this. What do you mean by confirmations that you were getting?
Like, so what I'm saying is, it's okay for clarity. Like, maybe they got the word from God, while praying. 1, 2, maybe, someone who just stopped them and just, pointed them their direction to that person. 3, maybe they just, they had this knowing in their heart that is meant to be. But this other person is just having so much in his life. Yes.
Well, it may be the right, it might be the right person, but not the right time. And that's where the prophetic does come in, to discern the right time, the right moment. Because some people are just not ready for marriage in that time of their life. They still need that development, because like you said, marriage needs a death. Marriage needs a death to self. It needs and if you still have anger issues or different issues that are affecting your personality, there might be some internal healing or ministry that needs to take place on an individual before they become a union. And sometimes we need to make sure that that person is ready to become a union, because not a lot of people, you have to be ready for that. You have to be knowing that you have to be you have to be devoid of certain patterns and traits in order to work together. Like, I want to always be right in every conversation, I can't work with anybody, and I've got to know that for myself. But that's where we separate, I think, the spirituality from the practicality or just kind of like, I think sometimes common sense is important to regain Christianity.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you feel, woman of God, but I think to myself, you know what? There's certain things that you would never do when you was unsaved, but now you give reason for it because you're spiritual now. And you're like, women, so dumb.
There's something I saw somewhere, I think it was on Instagram. It said, if you keep seeing the good in them, even when God is showing you the bad in them, then you are on your own.
Come on now.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. You keep seeing the good in them, even though God's showing you. He's over here like, look at this. It's a no-go area, but you keep saying, they're growing in God. They're this, they're trying this, they're no. I really feel like sometimes there are some red flags that, like you said, ma'am, we try to spiritualize everything. There are some things that are just good old common sense, like you said, and that will deliver you straight up. That will just set you free.
I just want to say that it really is important, because obviously I really want to be sensitive on this platform. You never want to just say things based on your own experience or the things that God has put you through, but because there are going to be situations. I mean, the Bible speaks of Hosea, who God called to marry the prostitute, and obviously that was just an example of how God is with us, and the patience, the grace, the way he has to just literally try with us over and over again. It's like we want to be free from our commitment to him, and we want to be married to the world, and that was an example. And there's going to be some special circumstances where I remember watching an amazing testimony of a woman that came out of a horrific marriage where she was being physically abused by her spouse, and she was a Christian and she didn't want to just divorce, and she was very sacred about her marriage, but there was a point where she literally had to run for her life. And then so she was in a very broken place, and the Lord had brought this man to really be almost like a counselor to her. And, she was broken, and, and he was able to bring her back to healing. And they got married, and even in the marriage, there was a lot of things she had to overcome. And also when I think of Joyce Meyer and her husband, he was very messed up because of her situation. And her husband was the stable one. He was the one that was straight, and he was able just to really, he was patient with her over the years. And, it's so important to be transparent on this platform. Me, when my husband met me, I was that person that had a lot of anger because of pain and because of rejection and things I had gone through in my past. And he had to really see me through so much of this personality trait. I was easily irritated, easily angered. You know what I mean? There's things that you come from. And so I would say that, because what you'll end up doing then is looking for somebody perfect or who has problems, but they may differ to yours. And remember, what we tend to do is we tend to villainize somebody else's issues and what they're going through, because it matters different to us. So for example, just like in the church, oh my gosh, she had an affair, but you're a liar. Oh, this person did this, or but you're that, you know what I mean? And sin is sin. Amen. And so and that's one thing that I think people need to understand most importantly about marriage, because that is the biggest thing to overcome, is that there's, even now, 10 years on, I'm still learning, I'm still taking notes, I'm still watching marital sermons on marriage, I'm still watching women, not even necessarily about what a husband has to be, because that's dangerous as well, when you can say, oh, you see, husband, oh, you need to be like, I'm looking at how to better myself, always. The things I would complain about, and then I'd watch this woman say this, and I say, you know what, that's a better way to handle it. I'm still learning as I go, 10 years in. And I think that is the key. You've got to be willing. It is a lifetime of work, and that's why the Bible says, women, submit to your husbands, and husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. You know how hard? That's not easy to say, to love your wife as Christ loves the church. That means that you have to love her in spite of. You have to love her because of. You have to love her through and over, and when she's down, and that's a lot. That's a massive, a thing to take on as a man. A man, I believe, has more of it's a very intense role that a man has to take on. To say, love your wives as I love the church. You're likening a man to Christ, and that's not easy. And I'm here as his helper. That's why. And one thing that you learn, it is practical, because when my husband met me, I was able to fit in quickly. He said I was able to help him in ministry quickly. We didn't have this, I could fit in there. We didn't have a Sunday school teacher, I could fit in there. We didn't have a worship leader, I could fit in there. I could help him and aid him in the journey he was already on, because the church was already established before I came 6 months prior. And so we really have to, and I think church is the worst culture sometimes when it comes to these things, not just for singles, but also for marriage, because there's this facade where it's like, meet my husband and I, well, no, sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it is that, you know what, I need to get out the house, because best I leave, lest my mouth opens and I'm the woman that is tearing her house down. You understand? And sometimes those moments still happen, and sometimes we're too facade-y. But this is a generation that has no time for facades. This generation can discern truth. This generation, because it's such a generation of information and technology, they've got time for that. That was the old season where, it was this facade. They need the truth. They need to be set free. They need to not be drawn into a false sense of hope. There's so many marriages, not just outside of Christendom, that are going into divorce, but inside. Do you know how many people we know in Christendom that are literally been married and gotten divorced? These are men and women of God. These are people leading ministries. Do you know?
Unheard of.
And you understand, obviously, especially when you're a Christian, the enemy is going to come against your marriage. In the spirit. And I said, God, what is happening? Sometimes me and my husband will argue, and hubby will say, Kav, that's the enemy. And I'd be like, it's true, because it made no sense. There was no common sense as to why there was disagreement. And it's only when he said that, like, things will break. I prayed one night, and I saw this demon, and it was like a lava spirit, and it was like it was lava, and it was like pushing me and my husband apart with such force that its skin was splitting. That's how much he
He was pulling us apart. He didn't want us to, because the enemy knows the power. The Bible says 2 are better than 1.
Yes.
Like 2, 10,000. And so when you come together and you agree, there is a powerful structure in the spirit that can tear down territories, especially when you're pulled to the front line and you're a Christian. So we need to be honest. We need to stay relevant. We need to, if anybody who question online, I want to answer honestly, because it's going to take the Spirit of God. It's going to take you being honest about the things you're struggling with. Are you a critical person? Do you criticize people too easily? As a Christian, do you say, oh, you know what I mean? There's so many things that we struggle with in Christendom, but I definitely want a platform where we can be honest about marriage, how we came in.
And I just want to say, like, some of the single people listen to us. I know, we talk a lot about marriage this session, and also we talked about our subject matter as well.
Yes.
But there's nothing wrong with being single.
Nothing.
There is nothing. There's nothing bad. There's nothing, because let me tell you something. Marriage is a big responsibility. And you have to honestly not let people push you into something that that is heavy. It's heavy. You have to be able to be ready for that, and it's a wonderful thing. There's nothing nothing wrong with being married, nothing wrong with being single, but we have to be what I would say to single people is, don't be so hungry for this, because
in the fullness of time, and
in God's will, and in God's time, and God's plan and purpose, because what you want to do, you want to make sure that you're ready to be you already are a wife, or you already are a husband before you get married.